right, so today we're going to be finding percent of a number. So to find a percent of a number, we're still going to set up a proportion. We need to identify the part, the whole, and the percent. Okay, so anytime we have a fraction, we're going to have our fraction on this side. A fraction consists of a part and a total. So we're going to have our numbers over here. Our part of the fraction goes on top. The total part of the fraction goes on the bottom. Then here, we're going to have our percent as our part, and percent is always going to be 100. Okay, so we have our part over our total, basic numbers, and then our percent is always going to be 100 for our total. Okay, so that's how we're going to set up our proportion. All right, so let's go ahead and let's look at this word problem. It says, to celebrate the first day of school, CJ bought in a tray of caramel brownies and walnut brownies. The tray had a total of 16 brownies, of which 75% were caramel. How many caramel brownies did CJ bring? Okay, so we're comparing caramel, which is going to be our part, and our total is going to be the total brownies. Again, those labels are going to be really important. Here it says the total, the tray had a total of 16 brownies. So the 16 would go next to total brownies. And then remember, our percent is going to go on top. So it says 75%. So that's kind of your cue. Whenever you guys see that percent, you're always going to put it in the second ratio on top. And remember, percent is always going to be out of 100. So now we're going to go ahead and put our X here. Okay. And now we're going to simply solve for X. So we can cross multiply and divide if we need to, or we can find a scale factor if we need to as well. Here, I know that I can simplify 75 and 100, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I know if I divide by 25, for 75 divided by 25, we get 3. So I'm going to go ahead and put 3 out to the side over here. And 100 divided by 25 is 4. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use my scale factor here. And I can ask myself, how do I get from 4 to 16? Well, I know that 4 times 4 is 16, so whatever I do to the bottom, I must also do to the top. So now here I have to do 3 times 4. And 3 times 4 is 12. So X must be 12. So that means we have 12 caramel brownies out of 16 total brownies. So then I would go to the next answer here, and I would put in 12. All right, let's do one more. Since the first one we used scale factor, the second one we'll do the cross multiply divide to show you that there's more than one way to solve it. All right, so here it says Isabel is trying to raise $240 for a school trip. She has already raised 60% of the money. How much has Isabel raised? All right, so we know the total's always going to go on the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to put my total number needed at the bottom here. And then this is how much money she raised. Those are the two things we're comparing. I'm going to actually start with my percent side because that's a little bit easier. I see 60%, so we know that the percent is going to go on the top part of the second ratio, And we know percent is always going to be out of 100. So we're going to put 100 on the bottom. Okay, so it says Isabel is trying to raise $240 for a school trip. So this would be the total amount she's trying to raise, because here it doesn't say that it's part. It says that she's trying to raise 240, but she's already raised 60% of the money. So the 240 here would actually go next to the total amount she wants to save. And then here we put our X. Okay, so since I used scale factor in the last one, for this one we're going to cross multiply and then divide. Okay, so remember, we're going to multiply where there's two numbers diagonal from each other. So I'm going to do 60 times 240. And watch, we can do this easily. I'm going to just multiply 24 times 6. So I'm going to do 24 times 6. And I see 4 times 6 is 24. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 2 is 14. So we have 144. Okay, well now I can add back in these zeros, right? I have 2 zeros that I took off, so I need to add those 2 zeros back in. So really, here, 240 times 60 is 14,400. Now we're going to divide by our ball. And remember, anytime we divide by 100, we put our decimal at the very end, and we move the decimal 2 times to the left. So when we divide by 100, we're just going to move it once. We just divided by 10. Move it twice. We just divided by 100. So our answer here would be 144.00, or we can just simply say our answer is 144. And now we go to the next one here, and we put in that she has raised $144.